The holographic display flickered momentarily as Elder Voxral slammed his crystalline appendage against the ancient table. 19 pairs of alien eyes shifted nervously, while the 20th seat, Earth's seat, remained conspicuously empty. 3 cycles without representation! This is unprecedented! The Elder bellowed, his translucent skin pulsing with angry bioluminescent patterns. The humans have always maintained their presence at this council since the Great Accord. Their absence suggests defiance. Ambassador Luridian of the Phobator Collective leaned forward, her 7 eyes blinking in asymmetrical patterns. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that something has befallen them. The quantum transmissions from their system have been unusual. The Galactic Council chamber suspended within the neutral zone of the Perseus Arm had existed for 12 millennia. Species rose and fell, but the Council remained, the last bastion of order in a chaotic universe. Humanity had only joined 3 centuries ago, impossibly young among ancient civilizations, yet they had already secured their position as diplomatic mavericks. Commander Nyx Oriel watched the proceedings from her cloaked observation post. The Council didn't know that she represented Earth's interests now, unofficially, invisibly. Neither did they know why Earth's official delegate, Ambassador Kvaris, had vanished. Only 5 humans in the entire Sol system knew the truth. "The humans are planning something," hissed Representative Clyath of the Silicon Dominion, its voice modulator struggling to translate the complex thought patterns of a silicon-based intelligence. Their technological advances in the last decade have been concerning. Nyx checked her quantum-encrypted communicator. Still nothing from Field Operative Elawan, who had infiltrated the hegemony's fortress world. If the intel was correct, the entire council could be compromised. "I propose a motion," announced diplomat Zenroy of the Oregon Federation, her feathered crest rising dramatically. "If Earth fails to send representation within 1 more cycle, we remove their voting rights." The motion spread like wildfire through the chamber as species that had long resented humanity's rapid rise to prominence saw an opportunity to diminish their influence. Nyx's finger hovered over the emergency protocol button. Revealing herself now would provide temporary relief but expose their operation. The stakes were too high. The hegemony had planted quantum parasites in the Council's neural network, gradually influencing decisions across the galaxy for decades. Only Earth's isolated position and paranoid security protocols had kept them immune. Motion seconded. Agreed the tachyon consciousness, its vapor form condensing slightly with excitement. As the Council prepared to vote, Nyx's communicator pulsed, silently against her wrist. A single message appeared. Confirmation. Parasites identified. Council compromised at 74% infection rate. Phase Theta authorized. Nyx took a deep breath. Humanity was about to make the most dangerous diplomatic gambit in its brief interstellar history. From her hidden alcove, she watched the vote begin. Earth's absence was no accident. It was the opening move in a game of cosmic chess where the board itself didn't know it was being played. Across 16 light-years, field operative Eloan Ravash crouched within the ventilation chamber of the hegemony's primary data nexus. Her quantum-dampening suit rendered her invisible to the biomechanical sentries patrolling the hexagonal corridors. The neural interface implanted at the base of her skull transmitted a continuous stream of data. "Back to Sol Command. Backup files accessed," she sub-vocalized to her handler. "The infection vector originated 300 years ago, exactly when humanity joined the Council." "That can't be coincidence," replied Director Meridian's voice, directly into her auditory implant. "What was the trigger?" Elawan's augmented vision scanned through petabytes of alien code. "They were scared of us. The oldest council members saw our potential and implemented a containment protocol. The hegemony, not a separate entity as humanity had believed, but a shadow branch of the Council itself had been designed as insurance against emerging species that developed too quickly. Earth hadn't been the first target, merely the latest. Meanwhile, aboard the stealth vessel Tenebrous Inquiry, Ambassador Kavaris, the supposedly missing Earth delegate, worked frantically with his team. The veteran diplomat's weathered face reflected the glow of holographic displays showing real-time feeds from the Council chamber. "Nix is in position," reported communications specialist Oren. His fingers danced across adaptive interfaces as he maintained their quantum-entangled network. "The vote is proceeding," Kavaris nodded grimly. "And Operation Lighthouse?" "Admiral Talaith reports all defensive systems are prepared throughout Sol." "If this fails—" "It won't," Kavaris interrupted, though uncertainty flickered across his features. 2 centuries of planning, 3 generations of operatives. We've prepared for this moment since we discovered the first neural parasite in the original delegation. The ship shuddered slightly as it maintained its position within the chromatic nebula, hidden from even the most advanced Council scanners. The nebula's radiation would have killed most species, but humanity's adaptive radiation shielding, developed after centuries of harsh survival on Earth, made it the perfect hiding spot. Back in the Council chamber, the vote concluded. 17 members voted to suspend Earth's privileges. Only 2 abstained. Nix watched Elder Voxroll's satisfied expression as he prepared to formalize the decision. The quantum parasite within him, undetectable to Council technology, pulsed slightly, visible only through Nix's specialized lenses. "In accordance with Galactic Statute 14-7b, the Elder began, Earth's representation privileges are hereby—" Nix pressed the activation signal. Throughout the chamber, 19 quantum receivers simultaneously activated, microscopic devices planted, over decades by successive human operatives. Each receiver interfaced directly with the quantum parasites, momentarily reversing their control parameters. For 3 precious seconds, the entire Council froze as their neural systems experienced what they would later describe as absolute clarity. In those 3 seconds, they saw the truth. "Suspended," Elder Voxroll finished mechanically, but his inner eyes had widened with horrified understanding. The quantum parasites reasserted control almost immediately, but the damage was done. A seed of doubt had been planted. Across the chamber, Ambassador Luridian's appendages trembled slightly. As the representative with the lowest infection rate, she had seen the most during the neural interruption. Her 7 eyes darted around the chamber, surveying her colleagues with newfound suspicion. Back on the Tenebrous Inquiry, Kavaris watched the Council members' biometric readings spike across his displays. "It worked," breathed Oren. "The neural shock created awareness." "For how long?" Kavaris questioned, leaning forward intently. "The parasites are already adapting." On the Fortress world, Alawan moved swiftly through the hegemony's restricted archives. The brief neural interruption had deactivated security protocols throughout the network, giving her unprecedented access. Her fingers flew across alien interfaces, extracting evidence of the Council's true nature, the systematic suppression of promising species, the assassination of potential rivals, and the carefully orchestrated accidents that had befallen 17 civilizations before humanity. "They called it pruning the garden," she reported, disgust evident in her voice. "Any species that developed faster than light travel in under 10,000 years of civilization was deemed a destabilizing element." Director Meridian's voice was grim. "And humanity did it in less than 5,000. "That's not all," Alawan continued, downloading critical files to her neural storage. "The parasites aren't just control mechanisms. They're a collective intelligence. They've been steering galactic development for millions of years." In the Council chamber, the facade of normalcy had returned, but subtle changes were evident to Nix's trained eye. Ambassador Luridian kept touching her cranial ridge, where the parasite interfaced with her neural system. Representative Cliath's silicon. Matrices flickered with processing conflicts. The tachyon consciousness had partially dispersed, its unified form disturbed by competing directives. Nyx activated her emergency protocol, allowing a small drone to detach from her suit and float inconspicuously toward Earth's empty seat. The drone projected a small holographic message visible only to Ambassador Luridian. Meet at the meditation gardens. 1 standard hour. Come alone. The ambassador's middle eye blinked twice. Acknowledgement. As the council session concluded, Elder Voxrall announced the formation of an investigative committee to address Earth's absence. We shall dispatch a delegation to Sol immediately to assess the situation. Nyx's blood ran cold. This was the response they had feared and prepared for. Within seconds, her warning reached Sol Command. Throughout human space, defensive systems silently activated. Colony worlds initiated emergency protocols. The Sol barrier, humanity's greatest technological achievement and most closely guarded secret, prepared for its first real test. In the nebula, Kavaris received the alert. They took the bait, he told his crew. Operation Lighthouse is now active. As the council members departed, none noticed the microscopic trackers attached to their environmental suits, another gift from humanity's operatives. Each would lead Aloan to the individual control nodes, where the parasites coordinated their network. The ancient game had entered its final phase. The meditation gardens aboard Nexus Station hummed with the gentle vibrations of exotic flora from across the galaxy. Ambassador Luridian moved carefully through phosphorescent ferns, her ceremonial robes concealing additional eyes that had emerged, a stress response in her species. "I know you're here," she whispered to the seemingly empty chamber. Nyx deactivated her cloaking field, appearing beside a crystalline formation. "You saw it, didn't you? During the neural interruption." Luridian's appendages trembled. "Millions of years. My entire civilization has been—" She struggled for the word. "Puppets." "Not just yours," Nyx replied softly. "All of us. The difference is that Earth suspected it from the beginning. Humanity's paranoia, once dismissed as a primitive evolutionary response, had proven to be their salvation." When the first Earth delegation returned from council meetings behaving subtly differently, Earth's intelligence services initiated deep neural scans that discovered the microscopic quantum parasites. Rather than expose their knowledge, they had maintained the deception for 3 centuries, developing countermeasures while appearing to be successfully integrated into the Council's control system. "Why reveal this now?" Luridian asked. "Because we found the source," Nyx explained, producing a small device that projected a 3-dimensional stellar map. "The parasite collective originated from what you call the Forbidden Zone," Luridian recoiled. "No species is permitted to enter that region." "Exactly. The oldest deception of all." Meanwhile, the Council's investigative fleet approached the Sol system, led by Elder Voxrall himself. 19 capital ships representing the Council's unified authority prepared to breach Earth's territory, officially to investigate humanity's absence. But Kavaris knew their true purpose was invasion. What they didn't know was that humanity had transformed their home system into an impenetrable fortress during 3 centuries of feverish preparation. As the Council fleet reached the outer boundary of Sol, their sensors detected nothing unusual. No defensive platforms, no military vessels, no warning broadcasts. Earth appeared completely vulnerable. "Curious," observed Elder Voxrall as his flagship led the formation past Neptune's orbit. "Our intelligence indicated significant defensive capabilities." From his command center on Titan, Admiral Talath watched the approaching fleet with steady eyes. "Maintain lighthouse protocol," she ordered. "Let them come closer." The Council ships accelerated toward the inner system, their weapons systems warming with predatory intent. As they passed Mars' orbit, Elder Voxral smiled. The parasites within him hummed with anticipation. Another upstart species would soon be properly controlled. "Prepare subjugation protocols," he commanded. The fleet formed attack formation as Earth came into view, a beautiful blue jewel seemingly defenseless against the assembled might of 19 advanced civilizations. "Activation range achieved," reported Admiral Taleth's tactical officer. She nodded once. "Engage the barrier." Throughout the inner system, thousands of quantum nodes simultaneously activated. Energy fields invisible to standard sensors coalesced, creating overlapping matrices of spacetime distortion. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the invading fleet. Elder Voxeral's expression shifted from confidence to horror as his ship's systems began failing. The quantum parasites within the crew screamed in silent agony as their network connection shattered against humanity's defense system. "What is happening?" he demanded as warning signals flooded his command center. On every council vessel, the same crisis unfolded. Engines failed, weapons went offline. Life support systems struggled to compensate for the quantum disruption that targeted the parasites but left organic and mechanical systems largely intact. "This," Admiral Talith whispered from hundreds of millions of kilometers away, "is humanity's answer." The Council fleet hung immobilized within Sol's inner system. 19 of the galaxy's most powerful vessels rendered impotent by technology they couldn't comprehend. Within their hulls, confused crews experienced clarity for the first time in generations as the quantum parasites lost coherence. On Nexus Station, Ambassador Luridian studied the evidence Nix had provided. "If what you say is true, then the Forbidden Zone is the birthplace of the parasite intelligence," Nix confirmed. "We believe they evolved naturally but achieved consciousness in a very different way than organic or even silicon-based life. They perceived individuality as inefficient and sought to create a unified galactic consciousness. By hijacking our neural systems," Luridian concluded, 7 eyes blinking in sequence. "But why maintain the illusion of independence? Why the elaborate council structure?" "Control without resistance," Nix explained. "Species believe they have autonomy while actually serving the collective's goals. The parasites learned early that direct control provoked rebellion. Aboard the Tenebrous Inquiry, Ambassador Kavaris received real-time updates from both Nix and Admiral Taleth. "The barrier is holding," he informed his crew. "Now for Phase Omega." Field. Operative Elawan had completed her mission at the Hegemony Fortress. The evidence was irrefutable. Detailed records of 17 civilizations systematically subverted or destroyed when they developed too quickly, threatening the parasite collective's careful balance of power. "I've identified the control node. Architecture," she reported as she made her escape through maintenance tunnels. "The parasites maintain hierarchy. Destroying specific nodes will collapse regional networks." Director Meridian's voice came through her implant. "Your extraction vessel is approaching. Get that data back to Earth at all costs." In the council chamber, emergency sessions had been called as communication with the investigative fleet suddenly ceased. Remaining members panicked as conflicting directives from their parasites created cognitive dissonance against their emerging natural thoughts. Representative Klaath of the Silicon Dominion was the first to publicly malfunction. Its voice modulator emitted discordant frequencies as it announced, "2 thought patterns detected, primary consciousness compromised, initiating security protocols." Before shocked observers, the silicon-based entity began systematically purging its own systems, eliminating parasite code that had been integrated for centuries. Other council members watched in horror as Klaath's processes stabilized, its lights pulsing with newfound independence. "I am singular again," it announced, with what could only be described as wonder. The revelation spread like wildfire through the council station. Some members fought against their parasites, while others, those most completely integrated, defended the status quo. Civil conflict erupted throughout the massive structure. Meanwhile, in Sol System, Admiral Talaith initiated diplomatic contact with the immobilized fleet. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You have entered human space under false pretenses. Your neural parasites have been neutralized within our defensive perimeter." Elder Voxral, his ancient body now free from influence for the first time in centuries, responded with unexpected humility. How long have we been controlled?" "Since the first council formed," Talaith answered. "Millions of your years." The revelation sent shockwaves through the fleet. Crews who had served together for decades looked at one another with new understanding and suspicion. "What happens now?" asked the elder. Admiral Talaith's response was firm but compassionate. "Now humanity offers the galaxy a choice, for perhaps the first time in its history. The Great Hall of Reconciliation on Earth's lunar base. Armstrong had never hosted such an assembly. Representatives from all 19 council species sat in a perfect circle, their environmental needs accommodated by human technology. None wore their traditional council insignia. All had undergone the voluntary parasite removal procedure developed by Earth's scientists. Ambassador Kvaris stood at the center of the gathering, his weathered face solemn. "For 3 centuries, humanity prepared for this moment. We could have withdrawn from galactic society once we discovered the truth. We could have fortified Sol and abandoned the rest of you to eternal manipulation." Silence hung heavy in the chamber. "Instead," he continued, "we chose a more difficult path. We infiltrated the parasite network. We developed countermeasures. We gathered evidence, not just for ourselves, but for all sentient species." Elder Voxral, appearing physically diminished without the parasite's influence, raised a crystalline appendage. "Why? Your species was among the least controlled. You could have thrived within the system while maintaining your partial independence." Nyx stepped forward from her position beside Kvaris. "Because true cooperation cannot exist without true freedom. The galaxy the parasites engineered was fundamentally dishonest. Advancement without purpose, diplomacy without choice. Field operative. Alawan activated a holographic display showing the true historical record she had extracted from the hegemony archives. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as the actual history of galactic civilization unfolded before them. The systematic suppression of innovation, the calculated elimination of potential rivals, the careful maintenance of technological stagnation. "The parasites feared organic evolution," explained Director Meridian. "They feared what we might become if left to develop naturally." Ambassador Luridian, now serving as interim council leader, addressed the gathering. "What of the parasites? Themselves? Their collective still exists within the Forbidden Zone." "We have established communication," Kvaris revealed, triggering murmurs of surprise. "They are ancient and think on timescales we can barely comprehend. They viewed their actions, not as conquest but as gardening." The holographic display shifted to show the quantum signature of the parasite collective, a vast, intricate pattern of organized information spanning thousands of light years. "They have agreed to withdraw from sentient neural systems," continued Kvaris. "In exchange, we will establish communication protocols that don't require biological integration. The era of deception is over." Representative Klaath's lights pulsed thoughtfully. "And the council?" "That," said Kvaris, "is for all of you to decide. Humanity will no longer accept an absent seat at a table built on lies. Whatever comes next must be founded on genuine cooperation between genuinely independent species." Admiral Talaith stepped forward. "The soul barrier remains active and our defenses intact, but we offer something more valuable than protection. We offer partnership, not controlled by fear or parasitic influence, but by shared interests and mutual respect." The representatives exchanged glances, species that had been manipulated rivals for millennia now facing the prospect of authentic interaction for the first time. Elder Voxral slowly rose from his seat, his ancient form straightening with newfound purpose. For countless generations, my people have served a purpose we did not choose. We built starships without knowing why. We enforced regulations without understanding them. We lived as fragments of another consciousness. He moved to the center of the chamber, standing before humanity's representatives. Today we choose. Today we think our own thoughts. He extended his crystalline appendage toward Ambassador Kavaris. And today we thank the absent delegate who was never truly absent. Kavaris clasped the offered appendage, and throughout the chamber, representatives of 19 civilizations stood in unison. The gesture spread, Luridian's tentacles intertwining with Kla'ath's silicon nodes, the tachyon consciousness partially merging with the environmental field of the methane-breathing vortex hive. Beyond the windows of Armstrong Base, Earth rose, above the lunar horizon, cradle of the species that had chosen the hardest path, not just for themselves, but for a galaxy that never knew it needed saving. The secret of the absent delegate was finally revealed. Sometimes the most powerful presence is found in apparent absence. Sometimes the greatest unity comes not from control, but from setting others free.